What's up, everyone? Jason Gilbo here at JGilbo11, breaking down some GPP bats on this Friday 15-game slate. Really strong slate. Good mix of pitching, good mix of bad pitching to target some hitters against. Going to be probably a high-scoring upside slate. With the pricing tiers of some of these pitchers with upside in the mid-range, I just see a ton of potential here for a lot of high totals, a lot of high scores tonight's slate. So going to be one where you need to get that upside in. We'll jump into catcher here. Not a fan of Gary Sanchez or Buster Posey tonight, but I do like Alex Avila. 3,900 on DK, not a bad price tag. Looking against Tomlin. Tomlin's usually a guy that you can target against with more righties than lefties, but given the fact that this year he's allowed a 40% hard contact rate to lefties and a 353 WOBA, it makes sense to kind of plug in Avila if he's hitting second again. So there is that upside there. When you move down the list, JT Realmuto is a guy I don't usually target for upside, but I actually don't mind him in this Marlins offense. You look at Realmuto, I mean, it's a guy who hits much better away from Miami. Averages about 4 more fantasy points per game as well. Realmuto not badly priced. I just think, once again, you're going to get him at 10% less ownership than some of these other guys around the price tier. So I like his actual upside tonight. I like the Marlins in terms of an ownership play off of Milwaukee because they should be garnishing a higher ownership. But I do like the upside on that guy as well. As far as the third, Martin Maldonado, this is the guy that I'll consider up against Ariel Miranda, who's making the start tonight. Miranda's been a fly ball pitcher, is a little bit home run prone. Look at Maldonado, hits better away from Los Angeles, as you kind of expect. So I think you're looking really here at a cheap catcher with some upside, even in that ballpark, if you're looking to take a shot. Other than that, I mean, you can always count on, maybe a Stephen Vogt if he cracks the lineup at $3K on DraftKings. He was 2,100 on FanDuel yesterday. Struggled for this season. Got a hit in his RBI in his debut. So I don't mind him for a cheap guy. It's a guy who's been a league average guy against right-handed pitching in the past. So, you can definitely do worse. Looking at first base, in terms of the top-tier options, Anthony Rizzo is my favorite in terms of upside. Look at Scott Feldman, this Reds bullpen. Look at Feldman, though, 356 WOBA to lefties, 1.56 runs per 9. Goldschmidt's a little bit expensive for my taste. Bellinger in the lefty-lefty matchup against Richard, I'm just not thrilled about. I think if you're looking for a lower ownership play, Logan Morrison definitely has that potential. 14 of his 22 home runs have come away from Tropicana, as you might expect. Hits about 40 points higher as well. Tillman's the guy that I'll be picking on tonight. 463 WOBA to lefties so far this year. Has already allowed 3 homers in just 18 innings. Rays, I love the game out there. 90 degrees at first pitch. Wind blowing out about 13, 14 mile per hour in Camden Yards. There's definitely a reason why that game has one of the highest totals on the slate, and it might be actually the highest now. So. Move down the list to get some cheaper guys who have been struggling a little bit of late. Justin Bour hitting over 200 over his last 2 weeks. Just 1 homer since coming off the DL. Don't mind tonight up against Matt Garza, who I will be firing away against all the time. 336 WOBA to righties to lefties this year. 34% hard contact rate. Bour's got a good spot there for some power. Eric Thames, he's another one who's been struggling, hitting below 100 over his last 2 weeks. 20 homers on the year, but he's been a little bit struggle for him. So got the day off yesterday. You got to hope that it bounces back. Edson Volquez is allowing a 40% hard contact rate to lefties, 345 WOBA as well. So there is that potential. As usual, Miguel Cabrera just completely underpriced on DraftKings. Against Josh Tomlin, as I said, reverse splits guy. He's a guy I'll just fire away with a lot of Detroit bats. Tomlin, 377 WOBA to righties, 1.90 runs per 9. So get some Miggy action, though, if you need that value. He'll be a little bit popular just because he's been highly touted as the guy DraftKings continuously misprices. So, he'll be a little bit up there. Second base, Eric Sogard, Jonathan VR, we might be doing the dance there for guys who start, but both are in play for me tonight up against Volquez, 2 lefties that you can expose them with. I think if you're looking elsewhere, I mean, Jason Kipnis continues to struggle since coming back. I mean, does have the 8 home runs this year. There still is that pop, but it's been a little bit boomer bust. Against Sanchez, who's just been a guy that, once again, fire away with 363 WOBA to lefties, 1.84 home runs per 9. He's pitched mostly out of the bullpen this year, below a 35% ground ball rate. So for me, I mean, Kipnis is a nice value play at that one. And even Ian Kinsler, who's not badly priced as well. So you do have some upside guys in really good spots. I just don't see the need to really completely dive down because the value's there. Or that in that mid-range is there. So, I'm not really thrilled with paying up for high-priced guys tonight in terms of other hitters. I'm not going to be paying for Goldschmidts. I'm not going to be paying for Judges. Even third base has some value. So, I think this mid-range tier is a lot more solid, honestly, than building a stars and scrubs lineup tonight. So, I think the balanced approach is how I'm going to take it. And I think, that mid-threes on FanDuel and that 4s to 4,500 on DraftKings is in play for me. And even some of those guys who are around 35 to 4K, like Kipnis, like Kinsler, like Cabrera, you can build a pretty damn good lineup with some of those guys and still pay up for pitching. So, second base, I mean, those 3 guys are about the ones that I'll be looking at tonight with the upside, just price considered. Moving to third base, Jose Ramirez in a really good spot. He's obviously been crushing the ball. The price tag's my only issue with him, just because he's a fact. I mean, I want 2 homer upside out of a guy that I'm paying a premium price tag for. I don't know if Ramirez quite has that. Would it surprise me? No. But, for a guy you could just want a little bit more ISO out of power potential, that's kind of my thing with him. Evan Longoria, good numbers against Chris Tillman. You'll probably hear that elsewhere. He's a guy I don't mind tonight. It's just another part of this Rays bats, the stack really that I'll be after, 1 through 4, 1 through 5. I think my favorite struggling play on the board here that people might be off of just because he's been really bad of late is Eugenio Suarez. This guy who mashes lefties, really good ballpark, hitting 5th in the order. You look at Montgomery, definitely not bad, but this is a guy who doesn't miss a ton of bats against teams that are like the Reds who can't put the bat on the ball. But Suarez is a guy hitting 5th. I'll take a shot on in GPPs. Floor's been a little bit lower late, but I do like the upside that he brings. And then Nolan Arenado. This is a guy, obviously mashes lefties in Chase Field. Robbie Ray, a talented lefty, but Arenado 4,300 on DraftKings. And you look at Ray, I mean, obviously the hard contact is still there. It's the guy who's still allowed 11 homers to right-handed bats. As I said, 40% hard contact rate. In Chase Field, where his numbers go up a little bit more, he's been great on the road. But I love Nolan Arenado a ton here, 4,300, even against Ray. The upside's still there in that ballpark. There's still a reasonable total for that Colorado offense as well. It's not as low as what you'd expect maybe for this game, or if Ray was on the road or something like that. So I'll definitely be looking at him. Travis Shaw, he's another one who just continues to match and continues to be lower owned, so I'll toss him in as well. But outside of that, this is a spot, once again, I just think because of some of these price tags. I mean, Manny Machado still cheap because of his struggles. Unless someone pops up in that lineup, I think that mid-range is where you can be going. Matt Davidson's got some power, and against Vivint Sticks, is just not a guy who misses bats. You can consider as him as well. Shortstop, you got the horrible news that Trey Turner, broken wrist. He's going to be out for some time. You can punt with Stephen Drew. Stephen Drew's not going to move up to the leadoff spot. He's third base shortstop eligible depending on the site. This is a guy who hasn't been bad this year in certain starts, mainly just been used to pinch hit for, but has come in and actually had a couple of decent games. And Stephen Drew is not a bad player. I think he's actually a viable punt if you don't want to pay at this position. So, probably going to be hitting about 6th or 7th in that lineup would be my guess. You'll probably likely see Brian Goodwin lead off. So I don't mind Drew at shortstop if you're looking for a cheap value. But I think this mid-range, once again, you have Sogard, shortstop eligible on DraftKings, 4,200. Francisco Lindor is the guy that I'll be looking at here. In terms of power, I mean, 14 home runs are in the year. The power comes a little bit more from the right side of the plate, but given the fact that Sanchez is on the hill, I'll definitely give him a little bit of leeway here, like the upside that he brings. If you're looking for a low-owned, high upside play, Gene Segura is certainly in play for me against Bridwell. A little bit pricey, but that's one part of the reason why I'll keep the ownership down. So definitely in that potential there. Outside of that, I mean, shortstop is not my favorite position. Like I said, I'm just not a fan of the Dodgers lefties. Correa, this is a guy who I actually can see having a really good spot because Pineda can be home run prone at times. Might be a little bit popular coming off the 2-homer game yesterday. So I think that's where I make the Lindor pivot a little bit more against Sanchez, but ownership might actually be a little bit split between the two. Outfield, in terms of a pay-up, Corey Dickerson's my guy here. I don't know how many people are going to pay for Corey Dickerson. People really haven't been doing it all year, but he just continues to mash. A couple of 2-hit games over his last 5. He's been better in terms of average on the road this year. Power's been about split. Like I said, good night in Baltimore for hitting. Really perfect weather against a struggling Tillman. I like Dickerson there. George Springer's been mashing the ball as well. I don't consider Houston to be out of the question, even with Pineda on the hill. JD Martinez, Justin Upton against Tomlin. That's just kind of been how I'm going to be looking at things tonight, just firing away. You start to get a little bit lower. Lonnie Chisenhall, he's a nice value piece to that Cleveland stack. Like his upside. Christian Yelich, Stanton, Ozuna, all nicely priced in the price that you can afford up against Volquez, who up against Garza, who, bad against both sides of the plate. But when you look kind of deep down, I mean, you got the A's bats against Foltynewicz. I talked about him being just such a boomer bust play, but struggles really badly with lefties. So Olsen, Foltynewicz, they're not bad options in the outfield tonight. You're probably going to give him a lower ownership just because of the ballpark. So there really is that upside there. Like I said, Brian Goodwin back down in price. I don't mind him if he's hitting leadoff. He's been usually hitting second anyway. So good spot there for him. Outside of that, there isn't anyone in the outfit that tremendously pops out in terms of a guy who was mispriced. Like I said, the mid-range is just something I'll be firing away with. Outside of that, though, that's pretty much it for me. You can always head on over to DaveFantasyCafe.com, check out our great tools and content. Cheat sheets usually up by 3 or 4 in the afternoon off that slate. So good luck tonight.